right,
let's roll our segue for our next stories. For me, it's the wheel and it's rolling for us. This is another rendition of "Give Me a Limerick." You're getting all the poetry today.
Limerick. Oh boy, how long is your story?
I'll try to. I think one's long, one's short, so I'll try to read slowly.
Yeah, read
the first story is coming from. Oh yes, Frosty the polar rhino. This is from Sarakuta on the Smithsonian magazine, which is not a magazine I've read in a very long time. The newly identified species was small, hornless, and possibly covered in fur, which would have helped it survive dark, cold winters above the Arctic Circle. Then there's a picture rendition of it talking to an otter. That's I wonder who it is who gets paid to make like art renditions of what animals look like in the wild. And they're like, yeah, let's put some geese flying, an otter, and a really, really strong like aurora borealis. And there you go. That's the rhino in the wild. Roughly 23 million years ago, a small, hornless rhinoceros roamed the Canadian Arctic, surviving months of cool, dark winters alongside otter-like creatures, rabbits, swans, and shrews. Is that also a toad, or is that a shrew? I think that's a shrew. That's the picture paleobiologists have painted of, here we go, Epicerathium itigic, a new species discovered in Nunavut, Canada, more than 600 miles above the Arctic Circle. Take your shots, guys. Another week that we haven't not mentioned Nunavut. We mentioned it last week and the week before. I don't know why, but week 3 of mentioning Nunavut in our news story. They described the creature, the northernmost rhino ever found, in a new paper published on October 28th. The journal Nature, Ecology, and Evolution study. Find access to that journal from October 28th. In contrast to the newly described and more diminutive species, a massive ancient rhinoceros described in 1, Paracerathium linnixinus, appears to have been taller than a giraffe. That's a pretty big rhinoceros. But this one we're talking about, Frosty, is way smaller. Mary Dawson, the late paleontologist and curator emeritus at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, first discovered some of E. itigic's bone in the 1980s while exploring Devon Island, a large uninhabited landmass in Botany Bay, far north Canada. He found the remains in the Hutton crater, a roughly 14-mile wide pit created by an asteroid impact some 3 years ago. Dawson, who died in 2020, knew almost instantly that bones belonged to a rhinoceros because of the band on his teeth, reports CBC News' Emily Chung. But when she showed the remains to several rhino experts, they didn't recognize the creature. I said, well, this is a very strange animal. Good luck, Donald Prothero, a paleontologist at California State Polytechnic University, who examined the bones at the time, tells the outlet. What a helpful guy. Wow, I don't know what this is. Good luck figuring that out. I have my own shit to do. Bye. Dawson was undeterred. Throughout the late 2000s, she and other researchers kept it in sight until roughly 75% of the rhino's skeleton had been unearthed. Now, nearly 4 decades after Dawson's initial discovery, that's right, it's been 4 decades since the 1980s. Don't panic. Researchers say they have solved the mystery. Frosty was a petite, about the size of a small pony. Its shoulders likely stood little more than 3 feet off the ground. Based on the size and wear of the animal's teeth, researchers suspect it was a female in early to mid-adulthood. The creature did not have a horn protruding from its nose, unlike modern rhinos, as it had 4 toes on each feet instead of the typical 3, per CBC News. It had a narrow nose and mouth, ideal for browsing shrubs. During the early Miocene, the Canadian Arctic looked and felt much different than it does today. It wasn't a polar desert, rather it was covered with forests filled with pine, large alders, and birch trees. It also had a mild, temperate climate, similar to that of southern Ontario and northern New York today, which were Dunham. Summers were warm and sunny, but winters were still snowy and dark, and the rhino likely endured months without sunlight. Scientists don't yet know how it managed to survive the bleak Arctic winters. It may have had a fur coat, for example. However, these chilly conditions helped inspire part of the scientific name Ichlik, which means frosty, in Inuktitut. And I can't say that word. Inuktitut, one of the languages spoken by the Inuit people of northern Canada. The name was selected in collaboration with Jarlo Ikutak, an Inuit leader and former mayor of the Gris Fjord, Canada's most northern Inuit community, who consulted on the project. How did it end up in Canada to begin with? One idea is that the North Atlantic land bridge, which once connected Europe to North America, persisted much longer than previously thought. Scientists think that the North Atlantic land bridge disappeared about 50 million years ago during the early Pleistocene, roughly 30 million before the Frosty lived, but the creature's fossilized remains suggest otherwise. The North Atlantic land bridge may have been crossable with mammals million years longer than considered, researchers write in the paper. Perhaps the land bridge had mostly broken up into islands, but by the rhino's time, but the animal was still able to cross in North America by walking on top season ice that formed during the winter. Also, it could have just, like, its previous ancestor could have crossed, and then it came from a different rhino, and this is an evolutionary path. Maybe we're missing an evolutionary link between Europe and North America. That's also possible. The animal might have still been able to cross to North America by walking atop seasonal ice that formed during the winter, the scientists propose. However, not everyone is convinced by this. Philip Sexton, a paleoceanographer at the Open University, who was not involved in the research, tells the Globe and Mail's even Seminuk the idea is pure fantasy, adding that it conflicts with all geological evidence. Unsolved mystery aside, the discovery of a new rhinoceros species is important all the same. It makes the researchers wonder whether the bones of other large animals like camels and horses may have been lurking in the Houghton crater, just waiting to be found. At the very least, findings underscore the importance of Arctic mammal evolution. Lead author Daniel Fraser, a paleontologist at the Canadian Museum of Nature, tells Reuters. We often think about the tropics as centers for biodiversity, and they are, yet, but some more fossil discoveries we make in the Arctic, the more it becomes clear that it was an essential region in the evolution of mammals. So, yay! More scientific discovery on this Good Tuesday. Say hello to Frosty, our new Arctic polar rhino.
A rhinoceros, right? Isn't they call it?
Yeah.
Because it does sound like a
rhinoceros. Yeah, rhinoceros.
Very almost the same name, even. Okay, Limerick. There was a beast in the great white earth, a rhino with height and girth, a prehistoric beast, a paleontologist's feast, a find with an incalculable worth.
Woo! And we're gonna keep discovering things. Hopefully we can find more bodies in the. Oh, sorry, wrong one. We can find more bodies in the crater. Maybe there's more secret animals that we don't know about in that crater. That's pretty cool. I'm sure they're working at it right now.
Where does a 3,000-pound rhinoceros sit? Wherever he wants to.
So I think this one wasn't 300 pounds because it was way smaller.
3,000, they said, actually.
Oh, 3,000, sorry.